Hey, we'll jump right into it. So when we're talking about Atha today, we're really talking about three companies. We're talking about Atha Energy, we're talking about 92 Energy, and we're talking about Latitude Uranium. The two, 92 Energy, Latitude Uranium, where we announced a three-way transaction as of December 7th, 2023. Those transactions right now are in the process of closing, consolidating into one company, which I guess just briefly on this disclaimer, happy to chat about that at our booth. When you look at this, these companies now on a pro forma basis, once everything closes, the rationale behind the transaction, what we have executed on in terms of a growth plan and strategy, is building a uranium exploration company that is focused in Canada in the three best uranium jurisdictions in Canada, that provides really unmatched exploration potential and exploration torque within one company. And that comes through a dominant land position, the largest exploration land position in the Athabasca Basin, the largest exploration land position in the Thelon Basin, and the largest land position in the Central Mineral Belt, which is in Labrador. Beyond the land position, we also have an advanced stage, or a series of advanced stage projects. In terms of exploration stage, we have a post-discovery project that came in through 92 Energy, and that's a GMZ project on the eastern edge of the Athabasca Basin. And we have the Angulac project, which hosts the Lac 50 deposit, which is a 43.3 million pound deposit at an average grade of 0.69%, historic resource just across the Saskatchewan border and on the edge of the Thelon Basin. You know, as a number of companies have talked about here today, you know, funding, access to capital markets to be able to execute on our exploration strategy is a key component and a core component of what we're doing. At the time when we announced the transactions with 92 Energy and with LUR, we also did a concurrent capital raise, which at that point in time would have had us with a balance sheet of around $65 million, which clearly fully funds the entirety of our exploration program through 2024 and beyond. Team, we've heard that theme here. The team is absolutely critical in the uranium space as other sectors to be able to successfully execute on growth strategies and plans in the exploration space in particular. The team that we've amassed at Atha, you know, it's self-evident in terms of the capital market strength of the team and raising the amount of dollars that we have to date into the deal. But from a technical perspective, we're a group of individuals that have spent, you know, decades in the uranium space, primarily in Canada around Tier 1 assets. I had the opportunity to come up through Cameco Corporation, you know, both from an exploration context, moved over to operations, where as the chief geologist at Eagle Point, one of their operating mine sites. From there, had the opportunity to join NextGen Energy in the role of Vice President, Project Development, Operations, Exploration, and Community. Our Vice President of Exploration within Atha, Cliff Revering, again, similar experience set, was the chief geologist at Cigar Lake when Cameco brought Cigar Lake into production. So you go down the list of technical experience within our organization, and it's deep, and it primarily revolves around Tier 1 assets within the Athabasca Basin. Now, probably a few more slides than we have time for here. On the transactions, key points for this, hey, we're happy to have the vote take place yesterday, shareholder vote with 92 Energy. That was passed with resounding support. That transaction will be fully closed in early April, which then will have both LUR and 92E fully consolidated under Atha and have us in a great position to be able to execute our exploration strategy and continue with our growth strategy in 2024. Now, just a bit on the scope and scale of the company that we're looking at here. So on a pro forma basis, indicative market cap, say with Atha trading in and around $1, which was the acquisition price that was paid, we'd have market cap in and around the $270 million range, you know, obviously dependent on the time when we're, the share price of the day. Now, getting into a bit more detail, build up of the assets. Athabasca Basin, Thelon Basin, Central Mineral Belt in Labrador. 7.1 million acres of exploration property, Athabasca Basin, Thelon Basin, CMB. we have a carried interest. This is probably a differentiator and a unique aspect within Atha Energy. We have a carried interest, which is a 10% carried interest in a significant percentage of NextGen Energy's exploration portfolio, as well as 2 projects within ISO Energy's portfolio. I'll get into that in a bit more detail here later in the presentation. We have a post-discovery project that we are in the process of acquiring or have acquired from 92 Energy. That's the GMZ project, right on the eastern edge of the Athabasca Basin under thin cover. Project that was just, or a deposit that was just discovered a couple years ago. It's had limited drilling into it, significant upside exposure for us in terms of exploration exposure, continuing to advance that project. Angulac, that's the project in just across the border, if I can make this pointer work. Angulac project right there, 43 million pounds of 0.69, which is one of the highest grade resources outside of the Athabasca Basin. So when you look at the buildup of exploration assets, it's really about maximizing the amount of exploration torque within one investment opportunity. And that comes through a series of the largest early stage asset package within the Canadian uranium space, right through on an exploration risk curve, right through to more advanced projects, post-discovery projects, resource projects that we intend to advance across the board in 2024. We're making plans, we're making preparations to be able to get into Angulac and significantly advance this project in terms of the growth potential. There's 43 million pounds there, as I had mentioned, at 0.69%. The reason we bought this project, the reason we bought Latitude Uranium was for this project. When evaluating this project, I look at a few different things. You look at the growth potential that we believe exists here, and it's significant from our perspective. I've spent the better part of 20 years advancing and developing basement-hosted uranium deposits, had the opportunity to take a team into Cameco's Eagle Point deposit at the point in time when it had been mined for 25 years, had 10,000 drill holes into it, and over the course of 2 years, we added 50 million pounds to that. Then from there, had the opportunity to join NextGen Energy. We grew that project from 200 million pounds up to 336 million pounds. So the team that we have has a very unique view on the controls on basement-hosted uranium mineralization. And through that lens, we view the potential here in terms of growing the scope and scale of the envelope of mineralization within the LAC 50 trend as being material. And that's based off the geologic targets, but you go a step further and you look back at the performance history of this resource over time. The maiden resource here was at 14 million pounds. 1 year of drilling increased that resource to 27 million pounds. Another year of drilling increased that resource to 43 million pounds. So it's still in the very steep part of that resource growth curve. Compound that with the technical targets that we see in our plan for this year is going to be investing significantly in the Angulac project in order to grow the scope and scale of this resource and advance it forward rapidly within this cycle. The Gemini project. I think Siobhan, the managing director of 92 Energy, is in the back of the room here. She made a discovery here a couple years ago, very eastern edge of the Athabasca Basin. Basement-hosted uranium system. And when we were evaluating this project, the one thing that was striking to me when walking through the core, when doing the due diligence, is the similarities between the GMZ project and the mineralization, the structure, the alteration, the scale of the alteration, the similarities between this system and the Rabbit Lake Trend. There are very few of these basement-hosted uranium systems within the Athabasca Basin. The two most prolific, in my mind, would be the Rabbit Lake Corridor and the Patterson Lake Corridor. In our view, the GMZ project is a direct analog to being about right here within that Rabbit Lake Trend. And so what that leads us to, that lends into our strategy then in 2024, which is going to be two-pronged. It's going to be to advance the scope and scale of the GMZ zone through expanding at depth, through expanding on strike, and significant opportunity to continue exploration along a fertile basement corridor to the north, which has previously been completely untested. And that's how these basement-hosted systems occur. You have multiple deposits along a fertile basement-hosted structural corridor, and we intend to exploit that throughout the course of 2024. Now, Largest land position in the Athabasca Basin by a long shot, about 3.8 million acres across every past producing, current producing, and emerging producing jurisdiction in the Athabasca Basin. Now, from what we did over the course of 2023 is we invested materially in advancing and maturing this property base and this project base. We invested in the largest ever multi-platform EM survey across the basin, covered off about 2.1 million acres, with the whole objective of applying a systematic approach to exploring the largest land position in the best uranium jurisdiction in the world, and defining the highest probability, highest priority targets amongst that land position, and then being in the very unique position of being able to test those targets first. At a certain stage, exploration is fundamentally a business of probability. And when you have a land position like this in the best uranium jurisdiction in the world, that probability increases with scale. And then that lends itself to our exploration at scale approach, where we do have the ability to execute on this work at scale. We have the funding to be able to do it, and we've got the technical team to be able to do it. And we are building up an extremely robust and large pipeline of high priority, high probability exploration targets throughout the course of the entire basin. Now, what that lends itself to, you think about what we're doing in 2024, Angulac, advanced stage project in terms of resource, the pounds in the ground. We're going to be investing heavily there. GMZ, post-discovery project, discovery stage project, eastern edge of the Athabasca Basin. We're going to be investing in exploration drilling there. We're also going to be targeting our highest priority targets amongst the largest land position within the Athabasca Basin, again, providing the maximum amount of exploration torque that we can within one investment opportunity in the basin. Now, Thelon Basin. I'm getting short on time, so I'll just sum it up. The Thelon Basin, the opportunity here. This is a lesser known basin in Canada, but it was once part of the Athabasca Basin. Geologically, these things were connected. It is a fertile uranium basin that, Orano has the Kigavik project there, which is about 130 million pounds of uranium mineralization. There's multiple discoveries in this area. The one thing that has not been tested in this area is high-grade unconformity associated mineralization, where you follow these fertile trends underneath sandstone cover. The same process that's at play in the Athabasca Basin are at play in the Thelon Basin. In our view, the Thelon Basin is analogous to the Athabasca Basin circa 1970, before the significant exploration expenditure occurred in between Key Lake and Rabbit Lake. Carried interest. Atha also has, through how the assets came into the company, a carried interest in a portion of NextGen Energy and ISO Energy's exploration portfolio. So that's a carried interest right through to a bankable feasibility stage, at which point it becomes participatory or converts to an NSR. So I'll just maybe, I'm getting the hook here, so I'll wrap it up quickly. What Atha represents is a growth story in the uranium space. That growth comes through investing in the asset base, which is the largest asset base in the exploration sector. It comes through exposure to NextGen Energy through a carried interest, and it also comes through consolidation, M&A, and growth opportunities, all of which we will continue to execute on moving forward. Thank you.